David B. Ferguson. Let me think. Could I see a picture? He's a giant of a man.
He was a larger-than-life kind of figure.
He was by far our biggest client.
Dave was tall, of course, and very good-looking.
Supersized in heart.
Bold. I can't do it in one word, so give me two.
I'll give you two. He's innovative and he's assertive.
My two words to describe Dave Ferguson would be he's a Renaissance man.
He was one of those fellas that, you know, if we'd lived in the same neighborhood, we'd be throwing a steak on the grill every weekend or so. And Debbie, his wife, just a delightful person.
I met Dave in Jackson, Michigan at Vista Grand Villa Retirement Community. I was working in the sales department and he came in as the assistant administrator. Strolled into the dining room. He was kind of casual. He had a sweater thrown over his shoulder, but he was from California, you know, so of course I thought he was just a swinging single guy at 29 years old and wasn't going to have anything to do with him. We were not supposed to date people that you worked with, you know, but he would come into my office and talk to me, and he wanted to be sure that I knew that he wasn't really from California, that he was from Iowa. He was a good Midwestern boy. I think Dave was born a leader. He came out of the womb as a leader. He was an only child with two parents that adored him, and he was the center of their universe. The interesting thing was having this wonderful experience with his parents, though. In high school, he had a very difficult time. He was kind of a nerd, and he was in the band, marching band, playing the tuba, and he did drama. You know, kids in high school can be kind of cruel to people who are nerdy, and so that was a difficult time for him, but even with that going on, he still maintained his leadership quality.
I didn't always know people were looking to me for leadership. It started, I think, in college in the track team when I would watch these seniors. Oh man, they were so big and so smart and knew so much stuff, and wanted to be like them. And there was no way I could figure out how to be them. And then, you know, 4 years later, I get elected captain of the track team. My experience with leadership in the Navy was different, and it was when I went to the modern day PT boats, we could grow our hair long and have beards and all those sort of things. So we viewed ourselves as special to begin with. But I had an experience of people coming out of the Deepwater Blue Navy who'd run destroyers and big ships, try to run a PT boat the same way, and it doesn't work. And the experience that I had with that was people telling me as we went out at San Diego Harbor, be careful because there's a sandbar, and if you take a certain course, you're going to run aground. You'll sit there till the tide comes in, and every morning the skipper's going to drive over the Coronado Bridge and look down, and he's not happy to see one of his boats up on the sand. So I said, fine, you take it out, tell me, I'll learn. We lined up lights, we did all that. And right behind me was a lieutenant, full lieutenant from the Blue Water Navy, who had insisted his people salute and, you know, be shipshape and do all the things you would do in the real Navy, quote unquote. And of course he went out and ran aground and couldn't figure out why did his troops not tell him.
His career took off really fast. It was just one promotion change after another. And so we've lived in 6 different states with his career.
I'll tell you a brief story that has carried a lot of smiles and fun over the time. And of course, you know, tragedy plus time usually equals humor. So the tragic piece was that Dave and I and a couple other Greystone people were really pitching a job hard. And this was a turnaround project that had lots of needs, and we wanted this job bad. We're sitting in the boardroom with the executives of this not-for-profit, and it was a competitive interview, so there were others waiting to come in. So we had all made our presentation, all the great things Greystone was going to do to help this project, and it kind of goes around the table, and each of us were to, in closing, make one important contribution to the final closing statements of Greystone. And it gets around to Dave, and he's kind of just really silent and reflective for a minute, and we're all kind of like, okay, Dave, now's the time. Pull out, give me some brilliance here, boy. Well, he says, and this is the line that shall go down in infamy. He says to this not-for-profit board, well, I've seen uglier projects fail. Needless to say, we didn't win that contract and never heard from those people again.
When we came to California, Dave was really excited about this opportunity to be the CEO of ABHOW, but he didn't know what he was stepping into. And he was very careful to protect me. He always wanted to make me feel like everything was going great. But there were some enormous challenges that happened right as soon as we moved here.
My first impression of Dave, I remember so well. I was at Plymouth Village as an assistant administrator, and he had just come on in his new role. He went on tour to all of the communities, and I remember meeting with him.
When I first came to ABHOW, I walked around with a steno pad, they still had those at the time, and talked to people, and I asked them 4 or 5 questions.
And he said, now Kay, what is it that would be the most important thing we could do for you from the home office?
And took notes, and where I could do something visible, I tried to make that so they'd say, oh, okay, he's serious with what he says. And I also was so bold as to say, watch me. And I remember telling the executive directors, if you don't believe me, watch me and hold me accountable. I think people follow a servant, somebody who demonstrates that they're not any better than anybody else, and it's all a team effort. We just have different roles, you know.
I call him boss, but I've never felt like I had a boss. He gave me enough rope to go run whatever business he needed me to run for him, whether that was seniority or the foundation. Whatever he needed me to do, he let me do it. And he asked me if I had what I needed to do it. And you can't ask any more from someone who you work for than that.
Dave has always trusted me to meet the significant responsibilities that I've been tasked with. And I've been very fortunate to be someone who he felt merited that trust.
And with that empowerment and that support, you just wanted to exceed his expectations. And I think that he selects individuals that are high achievers, and so I was always in the position of, okay, this is what I think he wants, but I want to exceed that. And not only for Dave, but obviously for the organization.
When you're involved in that sort of a dynamic, though, it gives you as a professional all the incentive you would ever need to ensure that you are worthy of that trust.
I think what I'm going to remember most about Dave is his kindness, his love for the residents, and for the employees or team members. He's not one of those to stand up and run the show. He sits back a little bit, he analyzes, and so he gives the people the opportunity to grow, and his heart, it comes through, I think, in his leadership style and his quiet way, the quiet giant almost type of way he has.
He is the most sentimental man about his family. Oh my goodness, get him talking about his grandchildren and you'll just fall in love with him.
He loves to do crossword puzzles, and he can do that for a very long time. And of course, it's sports. You know, he's an avid Cowboys fan, Warriors fan. So when those seasons are on, the TV's on, and he's relaxing and cheering for his team. The lake house really is really an escape for him. He just loves the water, and that kind of fills up his time. Golf, of course.
First time I played golf with Dave was 1992, and it has been a joy since then. I believe that my sole role in life is to follow Dave's ball, because he can't see it.
We love to golf. Dave had already golfed in his past as a young man. His mother and father bought him a junior membership at a country club. They couldn't afford, but they bought it for Dave and told him that he was good enough to be there with everybody else. And so that's when his golfing started.
He had a misstep once in a golf course that had a cactus plant, and David ended up sitting on it, and that's not comfortable. I've never done that, but you know, that's something else I've learned from Dave. Don't sit on cactus plants. It's just not good for your health.
Golf has been a part of our traveling, and it's been very fun to do together as a couple.
Wow, I'll tell you what's mysterious about it. He can birdie any hole on any golf course, and it usually happens about the time you think you've got him beat. And it's amazing.
Does he cheat?
Well, I can't go on camera with that. I think Dave usually likes to ride, so he doesn't have the pencil in his hand. I think he knows people that know how to put the score down that he wants, though. He gets people to do what he wants.
One of Dave's favorite sayings is, make it happen. Make it happen. And it's usually complemented with a make it happen, with a backhanded make it happen.
You would have this big vision, and he would just go sort of like, now go make it happen. We all got a kick out of that.
Dave pushes us beyond our comfort zone, and I'm sure that many other leaders may not have ventured into places, say, such as China, or had the commitment to explore new ventures. And so we are always on the edge of our comfort zone, but it's through that we have grown.
Dave wanted to bring ABHOW into a more professional style of leadership, and he did.
I think he, at his core, wants to continue serving an ever-increasing number of seniors in high-quality communities with a rich service delivery across the income spectrum. And we've made tremendous progress in that over the term of his leadership.
While he also recognized the strong faith-based foundations of the organization. But it was very clear that without Margin, there was no mission, and so he brought us along.
I was impressed at what a giant he was relative to vision, to commitment, to improving the quality of life of older adults, and to courage, because he was willing to do something that no one else was ready to do at that time from our perspective. And that was to invest in successful aging of the people that he was charged to help improve their lives.
Dave leads by providing stories to people. He leads by example. I've gone with Dave into CCRCs, and Dave's the kind of CEO that gets down on his knee and talks to a resident and says, "How's your day?"
He's most at ease, I think, remarkably, when he's talking with residents. He has an immediate connection with people of all ages and all kinds, but with residents, I think that goes back to the days when he was an executive director.
He saw the residents, yes, as whole people from the past to the present. He was impressed by their careers, the things that they had done. Older adults have just always been in our life. You know, for Dave, his grandmother was in the retirement community in Waterloo, Iowa, which was right out his parents' back door. His grandfather lived with them until he died when Dave was around 18 years old. And then with his parents, his mother and father living at Piedmont Gardens, our holidays centered around taking all of our food, all the cooking utensils and everything over to Piedmont every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, and the whole family centered around making sure that we were with them.
My first time in really getting to know Dave was when ABHOW awarded my company the diversity contract. And the thing that truly touched my heart and made me be an Ab Howe person from that point on, he looks at me and he says, Joelle, I want you to create a home for your mother. Because he said it that way, it wasn't like, welcome to Ab Howe and thank you for being here. I'm sure he may have said that, but for me personally, it was the authentic and sincere way he expressed his vision for the organization is that anybody's mother and father, you know, would have a home at Ab Howe.
I've always been an extrovert from the time I was a little kid in the grocery cart where I'd be wanting to say hello to strangers. You know, your mother's like, no, don't talk to strangers. Don't you know about that?
He has an uncanny way of meeting people and making them a friend right away.
I get energy from people, and so you can't shut your door and expect them to come in. So I've always had an open door policy now. But then management by walking around.
The Big Cheese Tour, yes.
You need to get some movement in your legs anyway, but then you go on, see people, find out what they're doing, and find out about their families, find out about what they did over the weekend. It's important that people know that you care about them.
It tells me a lot about Dave Ferguson's character because I've seen it, whether it be with a CNA or a board chair. The minute he begins a conversation, it's always about the other person.
Ab Howe, under his leadership, has a tremendous generosity of, not only generosity of spirit, but generosity of intellectual capital. He created a philosophy, whereas Ab Howe was very, very open about the innovative practices, the strong business practices that they had adopted, being shared with others in the field.
I served on the Leading Age board with him for 20 years probably, and we were in the middle of a kind of an effort to change the way we finance long-term care. We talked about, you know, this is a major effort. It's going to require lots of extra money to pull it off. We didn't have it in the Leading Age budget, and Dave stepped up and said, I'll help you raise it. And I can remember him making all the phone calls, and I think we raised $3 million at the time for just a national effort.
He has amazing respect and credibility among his peers in the field. And so it's a little bit like the Don coming and saying, I have a favor to ask of you. But except without the threat.
Most of the funding for long-term care and services comes from the federal government through the Medicare program. You stop and think about it. Everybody over 65, virtually everyone, is on Medicare, which is a federal program. And so you end up with a national perspective on the problem. And if you're a leader like Dave is, you also realize that you need to be part of that solution.
A transformational leader is a man or a woman who sees change and then goes about making what is not possible at that time possible through their actions, their words, and their connections. Dave is a transformational leader.
I don't think of Dave as a Midwesterner now. He's gone from being a Midwesterner to a Californian in the old movies sense of the big successful rancher or oil baron or whatever in California, to now he's almost like an intergalactic, a Flash Gordon, if you will, of where this aging phenomenon can, I mean, it's almost folk hero status. When they colonize Mars, guess who will be there? You know?
When he first came to Ab Howe, I remember something he said. He said that he wanted his work week and Sunday to not be in conflict. He saw the importance of that faith-based institutional practices and history, but he also knew that if we didn't use good business practices, there would not be communities like that for the future. And he felt that was his calling.
And I've been fortunate that the old find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life has really been true for me. My wife would say, you know, he's lying because there are days he comes home that he's really had a bad day, but not a bad day in the way that most people have. So I've had a great career and I've loved it here.
Well, retirement is coming pretty fast at us right now.
What retirement's going to mean for me and my family is a thing to be negotiated. My wife's already made it clear that I need to be out of the house most of the time. So You can only play so much golf, you can only do certain things, but I was at the SEMO meeting in Boston, SEMO's chief executives of multi-facility organizations, and there was a panel, 2 new CEOs and 2 recently retired CEOs. And all of them said they were looking for significance.
For Dave, I think it's going to be harder because his life has been committed to his career. And so I think he's really pondering what he's going to do.
The next set of grandkids going through, and I want to spend time with them. And I've also run into people who said, when I retire, I'm going to pull weeds in the church parking lot. And that sounds great, and it lasts about a week, and because it doesn't have significance. So I'm looking for that thing that allows me to recreate a little bit, enjoy my family more, but also still be of significance to the profession that I love so much.
I know that he reflects on his past, but he doesn't dwell on it. And especially now with these changes that are going to come for retirement and leaving ABHOW, I think that he's reflecting back a lot more. And the way that he looks at the past and everything that he's been able to do is with a grateful heart.
So the best thing I can tell you about Dave, which is at my own expense, one time he and I were on a very small plane and I became very ill. And you know that your boss is no longer your boss, he's your friend when he's willing to sit there next to you and continue to pass the little white bags as you need them during this very unpleasant flight. As I continued to grow up, my buddy, my boss, was there to take care of me.
What do you say about a person who has essentially or has really played a large role into making you the leader that you've become?
I would say he is authentic.
I would say genuine.
The one word that really has stuck in my mind is noble.
Dave, I think I've said it all.